Hi, Jonas and Cam. It's Auntie Sarah, and today I have a really special book written about a very special person. Actually, just passed away on Friday, September 18th, 2020. So just a couple days ago on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. And her name is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she was the first female Supreme Court Justice in the United States. And this book comes from the PJ Library, which are some books that I know you get about Jewish topics, and it's called I Dissent. Ruth Bader Ginsburg makes her mark, and this is written by Debbie Levy and illustrated by Elizabeth Baddeley. So this book has a lot of wonderful pictures and a lot of wonderful words. So I'm going to read it a little bit differently than I have in the past. Today, I'm going to start off reading the full word about Jewish heroes, and then I'm going to turn the camera so that you can see the pictures while I'm reading the book, but you won't see my face. It's also a long book, and there's might be times when you have questions, so it's okay to pause and ask your mom or your dad or anyone else in the room if you have questions. It might be something that you come back to and watch with your family. And it might be something that inspires you to learn a little bit more about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So let me start by reading about Jewish heroes. The Jewish people have many heroes, women, men, and women and men whose lives have changed the world, who have so strongly affected others that we want to remember and pay tribute to them and often emulate their actions. So pay tribute means that we do something nice to honor them, and emulate means that we copy them, but not a knowing copy the way your little brother might copy you, but in a way that really says, I like what you do and I want to do the same. These heroes may be familiar to us through their discoveries, their bravery, their writings, or their talent in some special area. Sports, science, or art, for example. Perhaps they lived long ago, or you might have seen them interviewed on television last night. They could have been heroic in childhood or as adults. Judaism may have played an obvious role in their lives, or it may live quietly in the background of our knowledge of them. However, their Jewishness informs who they are, the choices they make, and their legacy. This book is one of PJ Library's series about Jewish heroes. Reading about these extraordinary people give you a window into their fascinating personalities and their memorable lives. We hope you will be so interested that you'll go beyond the pages of this book to learn even more. So some research, like I said. Who knows, maybe one day you could be a subject of such a book. Enjoy the reading. Harold Grinspoon and the family and your friends at PJ Library. So now I'm going to do a little adjusting here so that you can see the book. Oh, do you see Django back there? He's listening to the book. All right, so that should be good. You should be able to see the book, and I will be reading and turning the pages. So here's the first page. I Dissent. Ruth Bader Ginsburg makes her mark. Lots of fun words. You could say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life has been one disagreement after another. This is how Ruth Bader Ginsburg changed her life and ours. So we have lots of words on this page. Disagreement, with creaky old ideas, with unfairness, with inequality, with Ruth has disagreed, disapproved, and differed. She has objected, she has resisted, she has dissented, and disagreeable, no. but determined, yes. So here's a picture of Ruth when she was a little girl, and here's a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg as a Supreme Court Justice. And I think this book will talk a little bit about this important collar that she's wearing. All right, I hope you can see these. Ruth's mother disagreed. So this is a picture of Ruth's mother, and this is Ruth right here. Now, if you look at this picture, does it look like modern day or a little bit old-timey? I think a little bit old-timey. So let's read. In 1940, Ruth's neighborhood was vibrant with immigrants, people from Italy, Ireland, England, Poland, and Germany. Jews from Russia, that's like our family, like Ruth's father, Nathan Bader, people from different cultures with different holidays, foods, and traditions. But in all of these families in Brooklyn, New York, and in these families everywhere, one thing was the same. Boys were expected to grow up and go out into the world and do things. Girls, well, girls were expected to find husbands. Look at this. Ruth has a beautiful library, and I think these are pictures in her imagination. She is reading a book. Cecilia Amster Bader thought girls should also have a chance to make their mark on the world. So she took Ruth to the library. On the shelves were stories of girls and women who did big things. Ruth read about Nancy Drew, girl detective. She discovered Amelia Earhart, daring aviator. She learned of Athena, goddess of Greek myths. Here were independent girls and women taking charge. Ruth read her way into this world. Around her, the sweet scent of books blended with savory aromas of the Chinese restaurant downstairs. Delicious. A girl could do anything. So in her book, she was learning, really, that a girl could do anything. All right. So here are some signs, and I'm going to read this, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what these are. Sometimes Ruth and her parents took car trips out of the crowded city, and as they drove past a hotel in Pennsylvania, Ruth saw a sign. Now, Jonas, you might be able to read this. No dogs or Jews allowed. And you know, Max asked the question, well, how would someone know if they were Jewish or not? And that's a really good question. Sometimes people make assumptions about who's a Jew and who's not by the way that you dress, by the way that you talk, maybe the food that you eat. But my question to Max was, why would you want to go to a place that said no dogs or Jews? And the reality is they didn't really think that dogs were going to sneak in. But you notice they even say dogs first. So they considered Jews below dogs. This is how it was in those days. Hotels, restaurants, even entire neighborhoods announcing, no Jews, no colored, no Mexican, whites only, white only, no, not welcome, not allowed. Ruth and her family were Jewish. This was prejudice, pure and simple. Now it was Ruth's turn to disagree. She disagreed by never forgetting how it felt to read such words. She never forgot the sting of prejudice. So now we are finding ways to be inclusive and make sure that everyone on the page, not just people mentioned here, but all people felt welcome, have a place at the table, and have a voice to speak. Then she protested. In elementary school, Ruth was excellent in some classes and less excellent in others. Her favorites were English, history, and gym. In those she did well. But then there was handwriting. Ruth was left-handed. And back then, teachers told left-handers that they should try to write with their right hand. Ruth's right-handed penmanship was so bad, she earned a D in her penmanship test, and she cried. Do you know who in our family is left-handed? Pappy and Auntie E. And there might be other people I don't know about either. Ruth protested by writing with her left hand, and from that day forward, it turned out that she had quite nice handwriting. So these days, kids can write with their right or left hand. Let's see what's next. Ruth objected. Ruth also had a little problem with sewing and cooking. Those were her least favorite classes, but girls had to take them. Boys took shop, where they worked with saws and other tools. So here's Ruth baking a cake that it might have tasted good, but it didn't look so good. She wanted to take shop. She wanted to handle a saw. She didn't get what she wanted. It may have been unfair to girls and to boys, but Ruth was learning that sometimes life was like that. So in her experience, and this was even happening when Bubby and Zadie and Pappy, your other grandparents were growing up, girls learned to cook and boys weren't allowed to. So Jonas, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to make our challah and hamantaschen. Ruth loved music. She also loved opera. In music class, she lifted her voice in song. This time, it was Ruth's music teacher who objected, gently. Ruth simply could not carry a tune. The teacher asked Ruth not to sing out loud in chorus. Ruth kept on singing in the shower and in her dreams, and she continued to adore opera too. Let's see what's happening here. This picture looks like there's a lot going on and some big emotions. By the time Ruth was in high school, friends and teachers knew her as an outstanding student, baton twirler and cello player and newspaper editor. As graduation approached, Ruth was chosen to make a speech in the ceremony. But she had been keeping a big secret. Her mother was terribly sick, and the day before her graduation, Cecilia Bader, her mother, died. There was no agreeing with this. There was no disagreeing with this. This simply was. Ruth did not go to her graduation. She did not give her speech. Still, Ruth knew what her mother wanted. 3 months later, she left home to attend college. So here we have a picture of Ruth's mother. We have a picture of her cello and her piano. Here's her graduation hat and cap, which she didn't get to wear. And here's Ruth's father and Ruth sitting inside crying while the other kids are outside celebrating. So let's see what happens next. Ruth disapproved right back. So did Marty. Not many girls went to college in the 1950s. Ruth made friends, but she also met girls who excluded Jews from their clubs. That means didn't allow Jews in their clubs. She met boys who thought girls should be looking for husbands. And then she met Martin Ginsburg. Marty was tall and funny. Ruth was small and serious. Marty could make her laugh. They fell in love and hatched a plan. After college, they would go to law school, and both of them, lawyers, Ruth had learned, could fight unfairness and prejudice in courts. People thought it was a fine idea for Marty to attend law school. They didn't think Ruth should go. A lady lawyer? People disapproved. But they got married and they went to law school and they had a baby, Jane. So here, Marty, the daddy, is taking care of Jane, and Ruth is studying her law school books. Let's see what happens next. She resisted and persisted. Ruth's law school classes had a total of 9 women and 500 men. She studied mightily and tried to take for first place in the class, and yet at her graduation time, no one would hire this brilliant new lawyer. Why not? She was a woman. Oh, let me reread this. I'm actually reading from a computer, so it's a little bit hard. So, Ruth's law school class had a total of 9 women and 500 men. She studied mightily and tied, not tried, for first place in her class. That means out of 509 people, she tied for first place. Yet they were saying that no one would hire her because she was a woman. She was a mother. Men thought a mother couldn't pay attention at work. She was Jewish. Many people were still prejudiced. 3 strikes against her, but Ruth was not out. Finally, a judge hired her, and she worked like mad for him. After that, one law school hired her, and then another. And Ruth became one of the few female law professors in the whole country. And she did it with a new baby at home, James. She was an incredible woman from the very start. Ruth really disagreed with this. Ruth had disagreed and worked her way into being a lawyer and a professor. But around her, other women were excluded from jobs. When they did get jobs, they earned less than men. They were kept out of important roles in courts and government. To make matters worse, the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in the land, approved all of this, as one Supreme Court justice had written years before. So here's this one. The natural and proper timidity and delicacy which belongs to the female sex evidently unfits it for many of the occupations of civil life. That's a lot of kind of old-fashioned words, but basically what he's saying is because women are timid and delicate, no woman should ever have an important role in the government or other civic life. So, in other words, women and girls were too shy and weak to do big things in the world. And I know you know that's not true. Another Supreme Court opinion declared, woman has always been dependent upon man. Well, Ruth, you can see from her face, did not like this. So Ruth went to court to fight for equal treatment of women. So here's something really important to understand about Ruth. Even though she fought for herself and got some important things done and was doing big things, she didn't think it was enough until she made sure that other women had the same opportunities. And you know what? Your mom and me and Auntie E and all the women in this country have benefited from the important work she has done. The most important cases went to the Supreme Court. The first time she appeared there, Ruth was so nervous she feared she might be sick. But standing before the 9 Supreme Court justices, Ruth imagined them as her students. She, Professor Ginsburg, needed to teach these students, who were all men, why a person's choice shouldn't be limited just because she was born a girl. Ruth wasn't only fighting for women. When women were excluded from the work world, men were excluded from home life. Why shouldn't a father stay home and care for his children and cook the meals? Why shouldn't his wife run a business? These were fresh ideas in the 1970s. Ruth did not win every case, but she won enough, and with each victory, Women, men, and girls and boys enjoyed a little more equality. So that's really important too. It really wasn't just equality for women. It was equality for everyone. All right. Ruth, Marty, Jane, and James did not concur. That means they did not agree. Sometimes Ruth and Marty's children received confused looks when they said that their mother argued cases in the Supreme Court and their father made family dinners. People found this strange. They kept on being the type of family they wanted to be, and dinners at the Ginsburg house were delicious. Marty was a successful lawyer, but also a marvelous chef who had mastered the art of French cooking. Ruth, her family knew, had mastered the art of a burnt pot roast. So that's a little joke, just meaning she didn't like to cook and couldn't cook, which is a-okay. Ruth agreed. Ruth became well known as a lawyer, so well known that President Jimmy Carter chose her to be a judge in Washington, D.C. Then Ruth became known as a first-rate judge, and President Bill Clinton asked her to be a justice on the Supreme Court. Along with 8 other Supreme Court justices, her job would be to decide the most significant cases and answer the most difficult legal questions in the United States. So in 1993, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg became the first Jewish woman in the nation's highest court. Look, her family sitting there, all so proud of her. All right. I dissent, says Ruth. In each case, the Supreme Court considers, after hearing from lawyers who argue from each side, the 9 justices take a vote. The side that gets the most vote, let's see here, wins the case. The justices who agree write an opinion to explain the court's ruling. When Justice Ginsburg votes with the winning side, she wears a special lace collar over her, it's just hard to read on the computer. She wears a special lace collar over her robe. So here we have this. But many times when the Supreme Court justice announced the decision, Justice Ginsburg disagrees. I dissent, she says, and writes her own opinion explaining why. Plus, she wears a different collar for dissenting. So this is her dissenting collar. Remember I told you in the beginning we would look at her collar. So let's see. I dissent. I dissent. I dissent. Justice Ginsburg said when the court wouldn't help women or African Americans or immigrants who had been treated unfairly at work, she said, I dissent. I dissent when the court rejected a law meant to protect the right of all citizens to vote, no matter their skin color. I dissent when the court said no to schools that offered African Americans a chance to go to college. So here she is working not just for women, but for everyone in the country. Justice Ginsburg can be very convincing. In one dissent, she explained why the court was wrong to rule against women workers who were fighting to get paid the same as men. Congress and the president agreed and with her and passed a law to undo the court's ruling. I dissent. No, I dissent. So here she's arguing with another Supreme Court justice. Justice Ginsburg disagreed most often with the legal views of Justice Antonin Scalia, But they didn't just complain. They shared their conflicting ideas. Each pointed out weaknesses in the other's argument, and after the opinions were written, the two justices had fun with each other. They didn't let disagreements about law get in the way of their friendship. Look, here it looks like they're parasailing in France and riding on an elephant together in India. So that's really important too. You can disagree, but as long as you have love and friendship, you don't have to let that disagreement come between you and the person you're friends with. One disagreement after another. So do you see what collar she's wearing? Is she wearing her lace one or her I Dissent collar? Justice Ginsburg is now the oldest member of the Supreme Court. Some people have said that she should quit because of her age. Justice Ginsburg begs to differ. She works as hard as ever. She exercises in the gym, and she never misses a day in court. She attends the opera, she gives speeches, and travels. Many have cheered Justice Ginsburg for her persistence and independence. They've called her a rock star, a queen, a goddess, a hero. Of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg isn't a rock, a queen, or a goddess, but to many, she is a hero. She made change happen and changed minds. She cleared a path for people to follow in her footsteps. Girls in college, women in law school, and everyone who wants to be treated without prejudice. Her voice may not carry a tune, but it sings out for equality. Step by step, she has made a difference. So that is the end of the book. Now here are some actual photographs of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So here's a picture of her when she was a little girl, young woman. Here she's a lawyer and a young mom. And here she is wearing her Dessent collar in the Supreme Court. So I'm not going to read all of that. But here are some notes on Supreme Court cases. The name of the first case that Professor Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued in the Supreme Court is Fontero versus Richardson. And so there's so much more information about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I wanted you to be able to see these last 2 pages. You could pause the video and take a look at them and have your mom read them. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you learned something very important about a very special woman, and take a moment to think about her and all the work that she has done for you, for your family, and for future generations.